The second stage in group formation, identified in Tuckman's model, is called storming. Although that sounds quite dramatic, it's a totally normal occurrence for a group to enter a period of storming following a productive first meeting. In fact, it's almost inevitable. We all think about the term storming as being loosely defined as a sort of dissatisfaction or negativity, or even in some cases conflict. Tuckman and subsequent researchers identify storming as a phase in which the group's individuals respond to the demands of both the task and the idea of functioning as a group. This can be a difficult stage of group work, especially if you feel that the project is being compromised or you struggle with what you perceive to be conflict. Understanding storming as an inherent part of group formation can help you navigate and use the experience to strengthen your group work and your contribution to the task, as well as improving your communication and negotiation skills. So it will be helpful if we think about storming in 3 stages. Firstly, what kinds of dissatisfaction or conflict might arise? How will individuals and the group deal with these issues? And finally, how can your group reflect on and learn from the storming stage? So firstly, what kinds of problems might arise? Well, you may recognise the following common behaviours in a period of storming, so just take a moment to read through the list on the slide. Ultimately, these behaviours result in a lack of communication and information sharing, which affects the delivery of the work and leads to overall unhappiness within the group. Of course, you may be able to think of other behaviours and their effects. But whatever the behaviour, identifying the problems takes us back to our second question. How will you deal with storming on a personal level, and how can the group approach it constructively? Firstly, as a group, you may be able to solve conflict by referring back to any useful ground rules you made during the forming stage, but it's also useful to bear in mind these other tips which will help you move on from the conflict and develop invaluable communication skills. So remain focused on the group rather than on individuals. Everything that is done will have some impact on the group and the outcome of the project, so it's best to try and take a wider view. Finding solutions for the group as a group is the best way forward. For example, one person decides they're unhappy with their task and so they simply haven't worked on it. It would be easy to blame that individual and respond with annoyance. Instead, think of how being in a group can help this situation. Could that particular task be divided up among others? Could this individual be finding it difficult? May that individual respond well to a different task or role? Overall, your thinking should be what is best for the group and the project outcome. Next, focus on the problem rather than the person. It's easy to feel frustrated with individuals and attribute blame, but if everyone is able to express themselves honestly, this will save time and prevent problems further down the line. So what can the group do as a whole to solve this problem? Perhaps look again at task allocation. Check that deadlines are realistic. So try and be objective and understand that differences and diverse viewpoints can lead to better outcomes. You might find yourself in conflict with other group members. Try and remember that whilst a problem may seem obvious to you, others could see it differently and might not recognise the issues. Try and explain how you're feeling and why, even if that seems difficult. You might be surprised. Of course, if things have become really difficult, your course leader is there to help you. Being aware of the issues involved in the storming stage can really help you understand what's going on and allow you to be more objective. Consider sharing this knowledge with the rest of the members of your group to help you reflect. Some useful reflection might be, how was any conflict dealt with? Was it resolved? If not, why is that? What did the group as a whole do well? What could be improved? And how did you respond as an individual? What have you learned and what would you do different next time? So although the idea of dealing with conflict in a group work setting can feel a little intimidating, understanding that it's an inherent stage of working with others can normalise storming. Being familiar with its characteristics and the strategies for moving past storming will help you develop skills like communication, empathy, critical thinking and problem solving. All these will aid you through your degree and beyond. It's also important to note that groups do not always move through each stage in a linear way. Sometimes you may find yourself back in the storming stage with a different set of issues to work through. Again, this is normal, and if you do find yourself back here, you'll now have the tools you need to solve the problems. You're now ready to move on to the next video.